Welcome back to ASBR Boxing's YouTube channel. Delighted to be joined by Elliot Grigg, which means one thing and one thing only. We are again in preview mode. Saturday, 15th of June, the WBA World Lightweight title on the line, the regular title, of course. Gervonta Tank Davis takes on Frank Martin, undefeated against undefeated, 29-0 against 18-0. But we don't want to know about the records, the tail of the tape. We'll come on to this fight later. But I've got a few pressing questions to ask you first, Elliot. Obviously, you are the single most admirable man of Tank Davis at ASBR. The biggest fan of Tank, obviously as well, at ASBR. And yeah, I thought no better man to ask questions than you. So with that being said, mate, I want to ask you just straight in: does Gervonta Davis beat the likes of Shakur Stevenson, Vasily Lomachenko, other top of the tree lightweights? Do you think Gervonta Davis beats all of them? Which kind of leads me into my second question. If you want to answer both one after the other, if you say yes to that, do you think that he's number one then, or is there someone above him? How do you see the lightweight division and Tank Davis's positioning in it right now?
Oh, thank you very much, Paul, for having me on. And yeah, what a shot to start off with. And Tank, if you're watching, so take me into camp. I am a number one fan. I'm ready to fanboy whenever we go on. Right, let's take some names and numbers. Okay, so it's hard, this one, isn't it? Because you mentioned the likes of Loma, you mentioned the likes of Stevenson. So if you look at obviously someone like Loma's record, better CV obviously than Tank Davis. But I look at Loma, I look at age potentially, I look at the kind of miles on the clock, and I actually genuinely think Gervonta Davis would beat Loma if they fought. I really do. I think it'd be a hell of a fight, don't get me wrong. But I see somehow Tank Davis winning that. I think it'd be tough. Obviously, Loma would obviously win rounds and the movement would be a real problem. But I also see potentially Davis overcoming. I'm reluctant to say stoppage. I mean, if he catches him, maybe he could, but I'm reluctant to kind of say that. But I still think he maybe find a way. Stevenson, for me, is the one that I struggle with. I think Stevenson could beat Tank Day. I really do. I think it's really tough. I mean, again, you can't dismiss Tank's power, obviously. That for me, if he touches Stevenson, could he stop him? Yes, potentially. I think he could. You can't look at someone with that sort of power and say no. But equally, I can really see, what we're talking about, 27 KOs and 29. But equally, I could see Stevenson proving too elusive and staying out of way, similar to like Loma in a way, but I just feeling he'll beat Loma and maybe come unstuck against Stevenson. Interestingly, were Stevenson to fight Loma, I'd really probably want to see that fight more than the others, to be honest with you. I think that'd be a real chess match. When I look at the other names in the division, likes of Berenchik, I think Tank beats Berenchik. You've got the likes of Sapeda in there. Martin we're going to come to as well. I really think Tank's up beating all of those guys. I think it's really those three that you mentioned, really. Loma, Stevenson, for me, and Tank are the top three in the division. And I think it's hard to say that Loma's not at the top considering his CV compared to the others, but I've just got a feeling that he's actually three in that one. And I'm going to have to say Tank probably two. And I think Stevenson's actually probably the best fighter down in that division. I really do.
Wow, I wasn't expecting that. I mean, call yourself a Gervonta Davis fanboy. He hasn't put him at number one. Now, fair play, mate. I think just kind of testament to the division as well. Obviously the division maybe isn't as stacked as it once was because you've got the likes of Ryan Garcia obviously not campaigning at that weight anymore. You've got Devin Haney not campaigning at that weight anymore, and it doesn't look like they'll ever compete at 135 again. And then as it's funny, you mentioned Loma and Tank, and both aren't really lightweights, are they? They maybe could be super feathers. Loma definitely could, having been down there before, and same as Tank. But yeah, I that top three that you mentioned of Stevenson, Lomachenko, and Tank, I think the 99% of boxing fans would probably agree with you there. I think there's a few interesting ones. You've got Isaac Cruz up there now. Obviously, with his beating Rolly Romero, you've got Isaac Cruz definitely up there. He could be a problem for a lot of people. I really rate him. Obviously, Tank Davis has beaten him though, so you've got to have him above them. You mentioned Frank Martin, who Tank's obviously fighting here, an undefeated fighter, unproven somewhat maybe. Maybe doesn't really have that many names on the resume apart from Rivera and I'm going to butcher his name. Is it Harry Unton? Harry, you know who I'm talking about? Artem. Yeah. So they're his best wins. Tough fight this for Tank Davis, but yeah, if he comes through this, you've got to have him still in the top three. I actually agree with what you've said, mate. I think Shakur Stevenson's the man here. I really do. I think Shakur Stevenson's a special talent, as is Tank Davis and obviously Lomachenko. But I don't know what it is. I just give Shakur Stevenson the edge, although he might not be a massive puncher compared to Tank Davis. I think boxing IQ and skill, he's just sensational. And every time he has stepped up, he's just put in career best performances, arguably. Shakur Stevenson. So I think Stevenson beats Davis probably on points. Tank against Loma. It would not surprise me if Lomachenko was like 8 rounds up and got stopped. But oh, I don't know. I'm actually still going to go for Lomachenko to win that fight. As of today, if you ask me maybe in another few months when Lomachenko's getting old, he's nearly hitting 40, isn't he? Not in the next few years. So yeah, I see that being the toughest one, the toughest two fights for Tank Davis. I really don't know. I couldn't say with any confidence about Loma. But yeah, in terms of rankings, I suppose you're going to ask me for it. I'll go the same as you. I'll have Shakur at number one. I'll have Loma at number two, and I will have Tank Davis at number three for the meantime. But say Gervonta Davis wins this fight via knockout and gets on the mic and calls one of them out, I might just throw him straight to number one, mate. To be honest, one of those ones. We've kind of talked about all of the other fighters in the division, but now it is time to talk about this fight. And I just simply want your prediction, mate. How do you see this one playing out? Tank Davis, Frank Martin, MGM Grand Garden Arena, of course, in Las Vegas, Saturday, 15th of June. WBA World Lightweight title on the line. Who comes out on top?
You know what, Paul? I'm the fanboy, and I'm the fanboy for a reason. And that is Tank Davis is winning this call. He's winning this by stoppage. He really is. I see this. Don't let me wrong. Like Frank Martin's got power as well, hasn't he? What is it, 12 KOs and 18 or something? Obviously, he has a bit of a punch as well. But I just think Gervonta Davis. I see this almost being a bit like what happened when Romero kind of called him out as well. I've seen quite a lot of the build up to this one as well. And Martin does seem quite steely and quite determined, but I just always feel like this is going to galvanise Tank actually to somewhat of a solid performance here. And he obviously went the distance with, like you mentioned, the likes of Isaac Cruz, but I don't see Martin being as durable as Isaac Cruz, frankly. I see this being a sort of KO victory, and I see it actually happening somewhere around sort of 6-8. I think he clips him, and I think it's going to be lights out. And to be honest with you, if it does happen, I'll be back on here. I'll probably be moving Tank. I might even move Tank 1 afterwards, but I think it's going to be Davis KO, mate. I don't know. Do you agree with me or do you not agree with me? Talk to me.
I'm going Tank KO as well, mate. I'll maybe go a couple of rounds later. I'll maybe go round 9 or 10. I think Frank Martin will make this very competitive and could cause problems. He's obviously a southpaw as well, so it's not very often you get a southpaw versus a southpaw. A lot bigger than Tank, 2.5 inches or so on him. However, yes, he's got those last two wins against Artem, I'm going to call him, and Mikel Rivera, but they were both unanimous decisions, and he boxed really well, Frank Martin. But see, apart from that, I'm going to say it, I think his record's a little padded. And I think he could maybe get exploited here by Gervonta Davis. I think he'll win some early rounds, might cause problems, but ultimately, I think Davis will answer those questions and end it in emphatic style, as we're so used to seeing with Tank. Go to 30-0, get a 20th knockout of his career, and then see maybe is he in another fight before the end of 2024? Who knows? Hopefully it's Shakur Stevenson or Lomachenko or someone like that. But yeah, I see Tank winning this one via stoppage as well, mate. Guys, that's all we've got time for, unfortunately. Let us know in the comments who you favour in this fight, who you favour in the whole lightweight division. Where do you have Tank sitting at? Do you put him at number one further down the list? Who is your number one? Let us know the answer to all those questions. And as always, please drop us a like on the video, subscribe, share with your friends and your group chats, whatever. If we're talking nonsense equally, don't be afraid to call us out. We're used to that by now too. But yeah, Elliot, appreciate your time as always, mate. Thanks very much for joining me, and I'll speak to you again soon.
Thank you very much, Paul. And as always, guys, thank you very much for watching.